Welcome to the Park2Park podcast, where we compare theme park offerings from coast to coast. We don't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we'll try. I'm CJ, and I'm joined by Alli and a couple of special guests, which we'll introduce in a moment. But first, Alli, you just got back from California. How was your trip?
Hi, yes, I did just get back from California, and my trip was fantastic. I did 12 hours at Disneyland, in addition to getting to see a bunch of friends that I hadn't seen in a long time, and spending some time with some family.
Awesome.
So I had a great trip.
Cool. I'm jealous. My next California trip is in like 10 months to run the half marathon. Yay. But we're not here to talk about your trip report or my upcoming trips. We are here with special guests tonight, Bryan and Mykhailo. Welcome.
Welcome, guys.
Hello, thanks for having us.
It's good to be here.
And they are from the Miles from Main Street podcast. If you listen to their show, I was on, like 2 months ago?
Yeah, we did a show prior to leaving for a Disneyland trip, and you came on and helped us figure out how to attack Disneyland.
Yes, attack. I like that. Well, now you guys are back from your first... Well, let's get into it. So first of all, we're recording on March 16th. Alli will have to let us know when this episode is going to come out. But when did you...
Probably about a month.
A month? Okay. When did you guys go to Disneyland, and how many days did you spend in the parks?
We were there at the beginning of February. I believe we arrived on the 2nd. And... it was 4 days in the parks and 5 nights we were there. So did a ton. We were in the parks, for 4 days, and 12 hours is nothing. We were doing open to close every day. So
yeah, and those parks are open like 16 hours, 8 to midnight, some of the nights. So
yeah, it was, my legs were done.
Yes.
My feet were toast. My feet were toast after the 2nd day. So
yeah.
And was this...
It can be rough.
Was this your first trip for either one of you?
So, I mean, I'll explain that. This is it wasn't my first time there, but it was my first official Disneyland trip. I actually went with the marching band that I teach. They were in the Rose Parade, and so we were there. Oh, cool. And it's funny, that band didn't have any plans to go to Disneyland, and we were staying probably 5 blocks from Disneyland, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take one of these days and go to Disneyland. So I kind of really only had an afternoon there, so I never really count that, but it's not my first time being there. So
gotcha. And Bryan, this was your first visit, correct?
Yes. I've often said that I've never really gone past the Mississippi, but yeah, my first thing was looking out the window and seeing the mountains as we were coming into California. I wasn't ready for that. I never even thought about that. I was just always so Disney focused. Really? Yeah.
Yeah, it's you guys, the weather this year in California has been really bizarre with rainstorm after rainstorm, and the mountains have gotten a lot of snow. So hopefully you got to see some snowy mountains off in the distance. That's not the Matterhorn, but actual real mountains.
We did see some off in the distance. Yeah. And
cool.
We got, it was pretty crazy weather before we went out there, and we had beautiful weather while we were there. So.
Oh, good. You got in one of those nice little pockets where it hasn't been raining.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We're definitely pretty lucky.
Good. So who all went with you guys?
It was my entire family. So I've got 3 kids. One is 18, one's 16, and one that just turned 10 yesterday. And then Mykhailo and Kristen, his fiance, they crashed our party and came along. I should probably mention my wife. She was there too. She was the reason we were there. She had a conference, so we were using her hotel room and stuff. So
yeah, we piggybacked off of Bryan's trip. We heard that they were going to be going to Disneyland, and Kristen and I just kind of said, you know what, let's go with them. It gives us a reason to go to Disneyland. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you.
Perfect.
I would do the same thing. So Alli, if you could have a conference at Disneyland, then I can come.
It's.
I mean, I don't have a lot of pull at work, but I'll see.
It's kind of funny too, because I will be in Disneyland again in April, but
Nice.
I'm not actually going for that. I'm going for, if you guys know, or if anybody out there knows what NAM is.
Yes.
My company,
Yes.
my company is sending me to NAM, and I am booked solid with meetings with vendors, and so I don't foresee any time to be able to go to Disneyland. But it's just like right across the street, and so it's going to be tough to be doing all that work and know that I'm just steps away from Disneyland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That's a huge
You
convention.
can get fireworks.
Yeah,
Exactly,
you can get
yeah.
fireworks. Yeah. Okay, so where did you guys stay? Well, did you stay on or off property? First of all, you don't have to name the hotel or anything. And would you stay there again?
We stayed off property. We were at the Hyatt, Orange County, which was a good 10-minute drive, I guess.
Okay.
But still close. We could have walked if we really wanted to. I would definitely stay there again. I only saw the lobby in our room, but it was nice.
Good, good. And what kind of tickets did you guys use? Was it like one park per day, park hopping? And did you purchase Genie Plus?
Mykhailo, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. Well, I stayed at a different hotel. We stayed at the Motel 6,
Okay.
Anaheim. I think it's like called Main Gate.
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't awesome, but it also like wasn't terrible. Like it wasn't my worst hotel experience. But it was just a bed. It was a room and a bed, which is like
Yeah.
what we needed. So we were okay with that. Probably I wouldn't be clamoring to stay there again, but at the price that we paid, I would probably stay there again. So yeah, and so tickets wise, Brian sprung for the park hoppers, and Kristen and I went for one park per day, and Kristen and I actually ended up buying Genie Plus for all of the days because we're kind of like Genie Plus aficionados. Like we utilize it pretty well, and we kind of know the ins and outs of it. So so far, I don't think we've gone on a trip without buying Genie Plus. So
Cool. So I have a couple of follow-up questions. Brian, do you think Park Hopper was worth it for your family?
Yeah, we did use it a couple of the days. The DCA days, we would find ourselves back at Disneyland. And the reason I did it to begin with is with my wife's conference schedule, I wasn't sure what she was going to be able to get done, that she wanted to get done. So I wanted to have that ability to go back and forth. And also, everybody tells you that it's worth it when you're out there at Disneyland. I do not use it at Disney World. I don't think it's worth it there, but out in Disneyland, I really liked having that option to just walk across the Esplanade and get into a different park if need be. So, yeah, I really liked having it.
Cool. And Mykhailo, on future visits, do you think you would do Park Hopper, or do you think you would hold back on that?
Brian and I actually talked about this at one point, and I think I would probably do Park Hopper mainly because on this trip it seemed like we were just doing Disney. I feel like in other trips that we go to, we may do like Disney and other California things. So I think utilizing a Park Hopper in that way may be better, so that it's like instead of because Brian and I are both so used to just hitting each park on each day at Disney World, whereas in Disneyland it can be kind of like, oh, I want to ride Soarin' and then I want to go ride the Matterhorn, like stuff like that. So it's just kind of like doing the things that we want to do and not just going to one park per day. So I think if I went back, I'd probably use a Park Hopper.
Okay. And then one more question for you, Mykhailo. So you've used Genie Plus here in Florida and in California. Do you think one system works better than the other, or are they about the same for you? What are your thoughts on that?
They were actually like the user experience was about the same. I do have to say I felt like the people in Disneyland probably utilize it less, probably mainly because it's more locals that are coming to the park. So like they're not going to be buying Genie Plus like every day.
Right.
So there were often sometimes when I use Genie Plus at Epcot, I'll be able to kind of like book a lightning lane for like 15 minutes in the future and just kind of go through the day like that. And we love that because that's way worth it for us to just immediately get into the lightning lane line. There were a couple times we didn't have full days like that, but there were a couple times where we just kind of had the pick of the litter with Lightning Lane, and I think it was just because like there were less people utilizing it. But I mean, user interface and like usability, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And then, did you guys purchase any individual Lightning Lanes? I think it's for Rise and the Spider-Man ride, maybe.
I can't
We did not.
remember.
Okay.
I think it.
I did. I actually on our last day we bought Mickey and Minnie's, and I think that was
that's right. Okay.
yeah. I think that was the only individual Lightning Lane that we bought.
Okay.
Yeah, because we actually it's funny we avoided Star Wars Land, not because we're not Star Wars fans, but because we have that back in World,
Right.
and we're
It's exactly
there.
the same.
We're there all the time. So we went in and we did a couple things out there in Batu, but for the most part, kind of focused on everything else.
Okay.
We did not buy any, only because I've got 5, and to spend a whole day's ticket worth on one ride just isn't worth it. But we made a mistake when we got in line for Monsters Inc. And end up in that line for an hour.
Oh no.
But yeah, it was a bad mistake. And that's where I was, swearing at everyone that had Lightning Lane.
Yeah. That's a ride that doesn't need Lightning Lane.
Yeah, it was down most of the day, and then we decided to get
no.
in line, and it was a completely bad decision to do, and we just wrote it out anyway. But
Yeah.
lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
It's funny. I just watched what's the Emotions movie?
Inside Out. I watched that
Inside
like
Out.
2 times a day. 'Cause my
Just
kids are
watched that
stuck on
last
that.
night, and Brian, you made me think of that.
Yeah, sorry.
Little trains going through. Well, Alli, I think you have some questions next.
Yes, it's time to talk about my favorite thing, rides. So what were y'all's top 3 rides at Disneyland? And why?
I'll jump in on that one. I have, the star of the show when I went, the one ride that I just thought was so great and so much better than its Disney World counterpart was Pirates of the Caribbean. I just love the Disneyland version of Pirates of the Caribbean. It's so great. I wish that was in World. Like it's just so good. I rode it several times when I was there and just loved it. And it's funny. I thought that very same thing when I went like 4 years ago. So yeah, it's a great ride. I really like that ride.
It's so good.
Yeah, another one that we thought was really great was Guardians, and it's interesting because I didn't think I was going to like it because I'm such a Tower of Terror fan, but I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cool.
You were supposed to do 3.
Yeah. Mykhailo, you have room for
Also,
one more.
also just
You have
Disneyland.
one.
We're gonna talk about California Adventure later. So just Disneyland for now.
Oh, okay, just Disneyland. Okay. So
I
I've
know,
got
hard question.
Pirates. Yeah, I've got Pirates. Another Disneyland ride that I really enjoyed. I actually did really enjoy Mr. Toad's. And it was one that like I hear that all the time where people are just like, "Oh, Mr. Toad's." And I don't think I ever rode it when it was in Disney World, so I just like don't have that affinity for it. But it was a lot of fun and I really liked it. So I see why people enjoyed it so much. And I just love that you just like you go to hell and then the ride's done. And then people are like, okay, now get off.
Now we're back in Fantasyland.
So
Okay, so my mom and I watched the movie for that, like when I was in Florida, and the like dying and going to hell, that doesn't happen in the movie, right?
no,
Or did I miss that?
I think it's like either a dream or something that he had.
Yeah, I just
can't
watched it
remember.
before we went too.
I'm gonna have to
It's
watch
like-
it because I don't
Yeah.
think I've watched it before.
The
think it was a
barman
dream.
frames him, and he goes to jail, and then he gets broken out of jail.
Wow.
But I don't think he ever dies.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Well, actually,
It's a wild ride.
yeah, it is. Actually, at one point they say that he died, and then he like comes back, and they think he's a ghost in that movie. I don't know.
So hang on. If you are Toad in the ride vehicle and you die and you're walking around Fantasyland, are you actually a ghost?
And then if you go to Haunted Mansion, are
You're
you
the thousandth
yeah, exactly. That's how.
ghost.
There's the line
connected.
that they draw.
Oh, I love it. Do you have another, like, your third place ride at Disneyland?
Third place would probably be, I think Space, just because, I just love that queue. That queue is really cool. Like that, like main room that you go into and you see like you're like in like hyperspace mountain, and just like the ride is a little longer, and the ride system itself is nicer. It's like more of like an updated roller coaster, and onboard music.
Yes.
So I think that's those are probably my three.
Yeah, so he
Bryan?
he stole my thunder with Toad and Space, but Toad was actually the first ride we did. We rope dropped Fantasyland our first day and did Toad. Both my wife, she has fond memories from a kid going to Disneyland, and so she was excited. And then my son, because you get to go to hell, was really excited to do it too. So we loved it. We had thought that was great. And then Space Mountain, exactly what he said, like it's a smoother ride and the music was better. Like, I don't know, I have some hearing problems, so having that right there was really nice. And I had a terrible experience the last time I rode Space at World. So this was like a very positive one. So it's kind of like, well, now I like that one better. So
Good.
but then Big Thunder is my favorite ride, and I got to ride it twice there, and the dynamite scene in there that they added, which they don't have at World and they need to get it there, that just added to it, and I loved it. It was so much fun. And after listening to you guys talk about it, yes, they are like mirror images.
Yeah, my brain still gets confused on Magic Kingdom's version because I grew up at the Disneyland version, and now I'm like, well, wait a minute, we're not supposed to be turning this way.
Cool. So
Now, what about California Adventure?
yeah, DCA. So number one would have to be Racers. I definitely liked. I think that was my favorite ride there, and it's just people talk about how like Racers versus Test Track. It's like it's not even close. Like I used to be a big Test Track fan back in the day, but now it's just kind of like eh. And Radiator Springs Racers is just so great. I just love how it's kind of like a dark ride for a little bit, and then you go out and you've got the speed, and you're actually racing people. And there's two sides of the track, so one side you do one thing, and the other side you do another thing. And yeah, I had a lot of fun on that one. And then probably Guardians would be number two. Again, I kind of talked about it already. And then number three would be. It's a tough one because it's kind of between Web Slingers and I call it California Screamin', but it's not that anymore. The Incredicoaster.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I call it that because I was never there when it was that.
I still call it Screamin'. I mean,
yeah,
It's same.
yeah.
But I think I would go with Incredicoaster, just because I was pleasantly surprised by Web Slingers. I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan in general, but I liked the ride. Like I wasn't like super excited about it or anything, and then I went on it and I was like, you know what, that was pretty cool. And the tech that they use is pretty fun. It's like another game ride. So yeah, I was definitely pleasantly surprised by that because I just wasn't excited going into it. I'm not like a huge Marvel fan, and I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan, but I had a lot of fun on it. So, but yeah, that would be my three.
I'd have to
Bryan?
throw up there for Radiator Springs Racers and for Guardians. Those were both great. It's been a while since I had ridden Tower of Terror, because I wasn't willing to wait their 3-hour waits that they were having.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, whenever they do maintenance on the elevators,
Yes.
the wait is so long, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, so we missed it the last couple of times we were there, and so I kind of forgot that drop feeling, like what it was really like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. So that was fun. I really enjoyed that. But Incredicoaster was the other one on my list that, growing up, we always went to Six Flags down near Chicago, and you had a lot of those outdoor coasters, just like Incredicoaster and the Upside Down.
cool.
And it's been since college that I can remember going upside down on a roller coaster like that. Obviously we've all done Rock and Roller Coaster, and you go upside down and you barely even notice it, but to see that coming at you and being like, oh yeah, I remember this, like that was really cool. And I was riding it with my son, and he was pointing out all these things as we were going, and it was just like, it was so much fun to do that type of a ride again. So that was a big one for me.
Yeah, I love that ride, and I love how, like California used to have all these boardwalks with little amusement parks and stuff, and they're trying to replicate that feeling. So that's cool that you could get that same kind of nostalgic feeling that they were initially going for, but connect it to another place. And I think that speaks to like the universality of that attraction, even though it was designed to be like a California themed attraction. It's just it's a solid ride.
And the storyline for Incredibles being in it just kind of pluses that, it's not just a roller coaster. Then you're kind of getting that story as you go. So
Right.
yeah.
So my second favorite thing is food. So were there any standout restaurants, any standout meals that you guys had when you were out there?
So I kind of have to tell this story. So we got Napa Rose reservations, and so we did that. That was like the first thing we did. Like day one, we hung out with Bryan for a little bit, and then we went to Napa Rose. We did not read the menu or anything correctly when we made this reservation. So we went in thinking that this was like a $60 like prefix menu type thing. So we sat down and we started perusing the menu, and we realized no, it is in fact a $125 prefix menu, which you can also get other entrees for like $60. So it's like that is a thing, but we did not read anything correctly when we made those reservations. But saying that, it was the best food that I've ever eaten. Like just like
Ooh.
it was insane. Just like everything that we had was so amazing and so unique. Like we had so much fun. The drinks that we had were all just amazing. It was so great. And I kept saying that before this, the experience that I had at California Grill was kind of like knocking my socks off. And I feel like if they took the food from Napa Rose and put it in California Grill, that would be like the best experience, because the Napa Rose ambiance is cool, but it's still kind of like basic like restaurant. It's really fancy, and the servers are all really awesome. But I feel like I liked the California Grill ambiance better when I was there. But yeah, it was really expensive, but it's just some of the most amazing food that I've ever had in my life. It was just two thumbs up. Would recommend. Like, you got to do it at some point. It was so good.
Yeah. Okay, Alli, when we were living there, did you ever make it to Napa Rose?
No.
Oh, Alli, Alli, come on, man.
I was balling on a budget, Siege.
Okay. I think I went twice. Once for our anniversary, and I was still working at Disney, so for the holidays they gave us like 50% off dining coupon.
Ooh.
I used
Yeah, you
at
got that
Napa
cast
Rose.
member discount and
And the
pass
second
holder
time-
discount where
Yeah, and the second time we took my in-laws and my parents as like a thank you for watching our son while I worked, like the first year of his life. So got to go twice. And yes, I agree. It's like a very good. Alli, I would put it up there with the food we had at Club 33. Just saying.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
You
I'll
need
take that
that.
into consideration for when we are back in the area later this year.
Again? You're going again? What the heck? Okay. We'll talk about that
CJ,
later.
I am attending 2 Southern California weddings this year. Yes,
Okay.
I will be back again.
Okay. Okay.
You've got
And-
10 months, CJ. You can do it.
Yeah.
Power through.
Start saving now.
Yes, apparently. It sounds like they've raised the prices since the last time I was there. Oh my gosh. Okay, Brian, were there any standout restaurants or meals for you?
Well, so again, family, so we couldn't afford Napa Rose, but we did go to Blue Bayou, and the ambiance there is really cool. Seeing the ride go by was a lot of fun, and it was all 7 of us eating dinner together, so that was a lot of fun to do that. But if you're not doing the Plaza Inn character breakfast, you're not doing it right. Like, I absolutely loved that. And, the food was good. It was good breakfast food. But the character interactions and just how laid back it was for us, like, it was amazing. And I will tell everybody that they have to go and do that.
I have never done that before.
We did a 10:20 reservation.
Oh, perfect.
So, yeah, so we did a couple of rides, and then we went over to eat, and that, like, it gives you a chance to eat your food, and, like, there's not a lot of people around either. So we had the 8 different characters stop by our table 3 different times, and Minnie Mouse does a photo op as you walk in, kind of like Cinderella does at the castle. So we did that picture, and then she started walking around because no one knew was coming in anymore. So she was walking around to our table as well. So, and then for us, we got to meet Lucy from Cinderella, which that doesn't happen at Disney World. So we were really excited for that too. So
that's really cool. And that's a good tip to kind of have the later breakfast times so you get better characters, and then you're kind of having like brunch, so it could cover 2 meals technically.
Yes, yeah. Although, my kids don't seem to eat that way. No matter how I tell them that they need to eat, they're still hungry 2 hours later. So.
Yeah, mine too. That whole growing thing that they're doing.
I know, right? Like,
it just never ends. Cool. I might do that when I'm there in January with my son. We'll see how things go. Okay, did you guys experience any shows, daytime, nighttime shows, parades? And if so, what were some of the highlights?
So we caught the 100th anniversary cavalcade.
Okay.
Like, I wanted it to be more, though. Like, it was just kind of this little song and some characters and one float, and that was it.
Okay.
I was hoping it would be more. And then we also saw the Lunar New Year parade way too many times. It seemed like every time we were trying to move to another area of the park, the parade was coming by. Yep. So they do that one a lot. But World of Color 1 was incredible. And that was the first time we got to see it. In the Star Wars section, which I'm sure you guys have not seen that yet, when that fanfare goes off, the entire crowd went nuts. And they couple it with the Millennium Falcon flying across the I don't know, what do you want to call it?
Like the
screen.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm getting chills talking about it. It was so cool.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I know you kind of put me on flame for not being a Star Wars fan, but World of Color is my favorite nighttime show of all time. And, they've used Star Wars stuff in the fireworks in California. And whenever, like, the John Williams score goes, da, 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 everyone's like, whoa. It's really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Something's good.
It's a powerful soundtrack.
Yes,
it is.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, Mykhailo, what were some of the entertainment highlights for you?
We saw. We actually went from the castle fireworks. I always forget what they're called.
That was Wondrous Journeys.
Wondrous Journeys. Yeah. So we actually went from Wondrous Journeys, which we didn't have a great viewing spot. We were like right in front of the popcorn stand. That's like right in front of the castle, and everything was in our way. Like people, popcorn, a tree. We couldn't see anything.
The trees can be kind of invasive there in terms of fireworks viewing.
So we didn't really see all that much. It was kind of funny. Kristen and I wiggled our way into kind of like the crowd to watch. But even from there, just kind of like the way, and I think it's because Disney World, they put a little bit more thought into that kind of stuff because they knew that like those things were important to, because Disneyland had been out for so long. They knew what was important. So I think Disneyland is more flat, whereas Disney World, they have kind of like a curvature to that like Main Street area. So like Main Street is actually tilted down, so you're kind of like looking up at where like at the castle and everything. So you didn't really have that at Disneyland, so we couldn't really see all that much. But it was interesting because from there we just kind of like we were just escorted like cattle over to where Fantasmic was, and like that's all we did was we went from show to show, and then we had a really awesome viewing area for Fantasmic. We were like right behind the AV booth that they have there, and we had like a straight on view of like where Mickey goes and everything, like the little stage there. So we had a really great view of that, and I really enjoyed that. I'm a lighting designer, so I get really into all the lights and the effects that they use. But yeah, I really liked that. I think the one in World is a little bit more updated now. I think at one point they were both really, really similar, but the one at World, it's just like they have a whole like area for it, so they're able to do a little bit more. But what I thought was really cool there was like they have the pirate ship and everything that kind of goes by, whereas Disney World doesn't have that. So I thought that was really cool. So those Fantasmic was definitely kind of like the highlight for entertainment for me.
Cool. It's been years since I've seen Fantasmic at Disneyland, and like I wish they had a separate area for it too, like they do it at Hollywood Studios. It's just kind of, they're running out of room, so they're making do with what they have. Okay.
I also have a
go ahead.
I have a honorable mention. And Brian, I don't even think we talked about this on our podcast about the trip, but at one point behind Incredicoaster, we were watching the Green Army Men band. There's a bunch of drummers in there, and one of them I had actually met when I was on tour with Drum Corps, and cool. he marched the Blue Devils, and I knew his name. His name was Keelan. Keelan, if you're listening, hey, I saw you at Disneyland. But I thought that was really cool that I actually like saw somebody that I knew. I was waiting for them to like mingle because I have a friend who's a janitor out in Epcot, and they kind of like mingle with the fans afterwards, and they didn't do that. They just went straight in. But that's my honorable mention is the Green Army Men band that they have back there. It was really cool, and Keelan killed it. So
they're super talented, and it's funny that you know a Green Army Man drummer because I used to work with one of the Green Army Men drummers from California. Yeah, we the facility I worked at, the child care facility, we had storytellers come in to tell the kids a story, and the storyteller was also a Green Army Man. Not the person you know though, somebody else.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to rides, or move back to rides. Let's talk about Pirates and Big Thunder as kind of standout attractions and how they compare to the Disney World version. So let's start with Pirates. What do you think is like the biggest difference? I know, Mykhailo, you said the Disneyland one was better. Brian, are you on the same page, or?
Yeah.
Or in the same boat?
I see what you did there.
Well. So what do you think is the main difference that like makes it so much better than Magic Kingdom's version?
The caves at the beginning were really cool. Like just taking that time to set up the story. I thought that was really neat. And just getting to float past Blue Bayou, I thought that was cool too. So
that is cool.
That's really unique.
That is cool. There was a trend on TikTok for a while. I don't use TikTok, but I heard about this, where people were in the boats were like, "Give us bread," and the restaurant diners would like throw bread at them. Like, I don't understand that one.
And now there's no bread service at Blue Bayou.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
funny how actions have consequences.
Oh my gosh.
Terrible.
So Mykhailo, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but what is like the biggest difference to you that makes it better than the Disneyland or Magic Kingdom version.
Yeah, I mean, Brian is totally right. It's the caves in the beginning, and I mean, we kind of have that at World, but like in Disneyland, it's just so much more fleshed out. Like there's so many cool areas with the caves and everything, and then even after that, because it's not just the caves. There are other scenes within that area that are like extended scenes from World, and so it's just like there's just this whole lead up to like the ship and the town and everything, and it's just all so cool.
I feel like Pirates in Disneyland is similar to Haunted Mansion in Florida, and kind of the opposite. Like Haunted Mansion in Florida has that extended intro scene that Haunted Mansion California is missing, and I know they had to kind of pivot for their original plans for that part of the park, and Pirates was kind of shoehorned in. And it's just kind of unfortunate because the guests, I think, lose out on what could be a much better attraction.
Yeah, and it was always an attraction that I really enjoyed, but then riding the Disneyland one and being like, why don't we have that in Disney World?
yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like the Soarin' queue at Disneyland.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, why can't we have this at Disney World?
We have a literal airport, like walk through area, and you guys have this like really fun museum.
right. And I understand what they're trying to do there in Epcot, but I'm like, this is the most low effort thing you could have come up with, you know?
Well, then how many people are there after they've come through an airport? Like,
right?
You don't do that. So.
Yeah, and I hate how dark it is. They just have like the little, I don't even know if they're real windows, like maybe fake windows up at the top. Like it's so dark. That's a weird queue.
Yeah.
So another attraction we'll talk about is Big Thunder. Brian, which one is better in your eyes, Magic Kingdom or Disneyland?
Oh gosh. What I keep remembering, other than the Dynamite scene, is just like the buildings around the queue and around the entrance and exit of the ride. That kind of stands out the most to me. Like, I don't know how they kind of built all that in together, and it feels like you're in this cavern when you like, or a hole or whatever, that you go down into the ride. Like, I guess you kind of are, right?
That's
and
true.
Whereas out in Florida, it's just kind of set out there, and you can see it all as it's going on. Like, I don't feel like I could see as much of it going around me as I was waiting in line at Disneyland. But, I guess it's because it's spread out there more and they have more space for you to move around. You can see more of it at Disney World. But, I thought the Disneyland one was a lot of fun.
It's a good ride. It's interesting you mentioned the buildings, and the buildings that I think you're talking about are the ones like right when you're about to disembark. They're kind of like the old town facades.
Yeah.
Kind of. So those date back to like when the mule ride was there, like the 50s or 60s or something. So they've been around a really long time, obviously updated and refurbished and everything. So, it's interesting that you picked up on that as something positive, because I feel like there's this push that like we need new things to make it better, and like that's not always the case. Sometimes those little things from the past really help make a better experience. So Mykhailo, on your end, Big Thunder better at Magic Kingdom or Disneyland?
So I'm almost flip-flopped with Brian, whereas I think the queue at World is better, because you are kind of like going through this like mine shaft town area type thing, and so I think that's pretty cool. I've never been like a huge Big Thunder fan. I know Brian really is, but I definitely clutching your
Yes,
pearls
I
over there.
Yeah, I love Big Thunder. It's been my favorite ride for 30 years. Well, less than 30 years, but for a long time.
Yeah. I mean,
You can hit the eject button on him if you need to. I mean,
Oh God.
Get him off the show. You're out.
You are booted from the podcast. I'm sorry.
I also
But
like
what's
Star Wars,
funny?
so
Okay, we'll keep you in.
You're redeemed.
yeah. But
I think Alli and I Allie and I fell on your side, Mykhailo, when we did our episode on Big Thunder for similar reasons. It's kind of off on its own, and it kind of tells the frontier story a little better.
Yeah, I think so too. But there's a but here. I think there's one area in this ride that kind of puts it over the Disney World ride, and that's the TNT area.
Oh yes.
But it does make me sad because I rode that ride when the fog effects were happening, and those effects were so cool, and I was very sad to see that I don't even think they've turned those on yet. And I feel like when I heard that those were going away, it was like a COVID thing, so I don't know if they're just waiting to do it or they're just saving so much money on fog fluid that they don't want to invest that. But that effect was so cool when I first saw it back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just like that room in general, if they could just do that again, just do that over in Disney World, because it seems like it would be an easy thing to do because they have almost the exact area. So,
Right.
But yeah, that's definitely the thing that elevates it over the Big Thunder in Disney World.
Yeah, I would really like to see that brought to Magic Kingdom as well. And in my mind, I keep like going through the rides that need updates, and I'm like, okay, Tron's opening, so they got to do Space Mountain, but no, they can't take Space Mountain down because Splash is down. Okay, when Splash is up, they'll do Space Mountain. I'm like, then Big Thunder after that. It's like you got to go through the hierarchy. So maybe one day in like 10 years we'll get it over here.
Yeah, right.
So, what is something that you think Disneyland is doing right that Walt Disney World needs to improve on or just plain do?
I don't know that Disney World can do it, but Disneyland has their characters so much better. Like, just the roaming characters. We got to hang out with Captain Hook a little bit as he was chasing Peter Pan around. And then we were walking that side path on the right side of the castle and got to see Merida at that point. She was just walking along. Like, you don't have to wait in a long line. You can just walk up, say a few words. My daughter was so excited to meet her and just got to walk with her. And then she stops at a point in front of the castle and we take pictures and we're on our way. Like, it was just so much better done to me to be able to just kind of catch them as they're moving around. And there were times that lines would start to form and the attendant would say, okay, we're moving. Like, here's the reason why this character needs to move, and Captain Hook's reason was that he's chasing Peter Pan, and he was like running all the way around the carousel trying to keep up with Peter Pan as Peter Pan's riding the carousel. Like, I'm going to get you, So
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
It was so much fun. And the kids just loved it. And it's the one thing we walked away with is that the characters there are done better. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that was kind of the thing that I noticed the most was, and that's the thing that when you go through Disney World, and the reason they probably couldn't do this is because there's just so many more, there's like way more people in the parks. But yeah, like when you go through Disney World, you see these like lines, like this is where the character is meeting, because they, like if the characters weren't doing that, they would just get mobbed. Whereas in Disney World, it just feels so much more organic, where like just like characters are there and they're just like normal people, only it's Captain Hook. So it feels a lot more personal too, with a lot of that stuff. So I think that's something that Disneyland is doing, or like something that's happening in Disneyland that doesn't happen in Disney World. So
Cool.
yeah, and the Magic Kingdom is supposed to be where the characters live. Well, they don't. I mean, I don't live in my house and wait for people to line up to say hello to me. So
That's
why
true.
not be
he's
walking
being
around?
modest. He definitely does that.
You got the tour group coming in
I mean,
later.
I do
huh?
that.
I haven't seen my kids in weeks. They can't get in line.
They're blatantly
Line's
sold
too
out for
long.
that.
There's no lightning lane for that. So
Yeah.
on the flip side, what's something that Disney World is doing that you think Disneyland should start to do?
My thing was ride maintenance. I felt like rides were going down left and right while we were at Disneyland. The day that we had tried to focus on DCA, we went back to the hotel room to take a break for a while, and during that time I was trying to come up with the plan for the rest of the day, what we're going to do, and that meant we had to get Cars Land done and on Incredicoaster. So the first thing we did was we came back, we ate some food, and then I look at wait times. Both Cars, Racers, and Incredicoaster were down. It's like, okay, great. Now what? And I lean into touring plans a lot for wait times, and they can't keep up with all the ride closures.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I'd say, well, it says it's going to be a 25-minute ride for Luigi's. Why don't we go get in that line? And it ends up being an hour because everyone's there since they can't go do the other stuff. So I don't feel like we have that problem at Disney World. Like, they keep things open better over at Disney World. And it was frustrating while we were out there, like, oh, it's down again. On the flip side, we did catch Racers and Matterhorn just as they reopened.
Score.
So, yeah. So that worked out really well.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, and I kind of have a theory on this. And I think it's because temperatures get lower out in California. And I noticed this one time when I was in Florida, and it was like the coldest it had ever been in Florida for us. I think it was like 39 at one point. I was like, this is insanity. And it wasn't even at Disney. We were actually at Universal. And we woke up in the morning, and I think it was like 42 out. And like they just had so many rides that weren't open yet because of the cold. So I think it's like it may have something to do with the fact that temps actually like get pretty low consistently out in California rather than Florida. It's like constantly 72 or above. So
yeah, to kind of piggyback off that, I think also part of it has to do with more of the rides in California are outside, so they're more susceptible to whatever is happening with the weather. I don't know how true this is, but I've also heard that during COVID, a lot of the maintenance workers either quit, retired, or let go, whatever. And a lot of them had been around for a long time. They were kind of older guys. So like the newer people they've hired, like don't have that knowledge base for some of the older rides that the people who are not there anymore have. So I think they're having trouble finding the right people to do the right things, and they're a little spread thin. It's not good.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
The other thing that I kind of wanted to mention with this question is just kind of like space. Like I feel like, I mean, it's obvious. It's the reason that they went to Florida, but just like kind of having that space. It was kind of funny. We were walking up to Splash Mountain, or no, we were walking up to Haunted Mansion, and I thought it was the craziest thing that like we were walking up to Haunted Mansion and you can just see Splash Mountain in the background. I was like, this is crazy. Like everything is so close here. So it's just kind of like having that space, something that Disney World has that Disneyland doesn't. But
Yeah.
Well, there are plans to expand Mykhailo, so
yes, if the government powers that be say yes, then fingers crossed. Yeah, no, I mean, even like the parking situation, Alli and I have been redirected from parking lots that have gotten too full. And when I was working there were days that they just told cast members, go park at Angel Stadium and we'll bus you in. Like there's no room for you to park. We need room for guest parking.
Crazy.
And they're like really tapped out. You kind of touched on this. Biggest surprise about Disneyland compared with Walt Disney World? Any like big, like, oh, I didn't expect that kind of things?
yeah, again with the characters, I knew they were more free roaming, but I wasn't ready for how cool that was going to be.
You were not prepared.
No, I did get choked up walking in.
Oh.
Like I mean, I had built it up in my head quite a bit, so to finally have gotten there, that was pretty awesome. I don't know if that's a surprise or not, but
That's cool.
yeah, I my kids are kind of like looking around, and I'm like hanging back, like you guys go ahead.
Let me enjoy this. Yeah.
Taking the moment.
Mykhailo, any
yeah.
surprises for you? Like any other big surprises?
I think my biggest surprise is, I mean, and I knew this was the case, but it's just always surprising to see just like all of the people funneling into the Disneyland area, and how like just all of the hotels around that area are people staying to go to Disneyland, and they all just kind of like come out and get onto that road, and everybody just funnels into
Yes.
that area. I thought that was real interesting, just because you don't see that in World, because the transportation is set up so that like you're just on the transportation and then you're at the park. Like there's no real like foot traffic or anything. So that was kind of my thing that I found interesting.
Yeah, it would be very interesting. You gave me an idea. It would be cool to get like some sort of aerial view of that, like drone footage, but have it on like a time lapse in the morning and then at night when the park closes, just to watch all the little ants crawling in. So what advice would you guys give to Walt Disney World regulars who are going out to Disneyland for the first time?
My thing is, I felt like I was underplanned. I was asking around a lot of people online, you know, what should I expect? How should I plan this? I've got 4 days, and everything was, you're going to have more time than you need. And so I didn't plan like anything. Like the nice thing about Disney World, as much as we complained about it, is that you had your set 3 fast pass times, right?
I missed that.
and you had any kind of dining figured out. You knew what you were going to do. And one of the things I've said a few times is we ended up eating at Jolly Holiday 3 times because it was there and we were hungry, instead of going to Hungry Bear or going over to, I never got Plaza Inn chicken. Like,
Well, now you
yeah, I
gotta go
know.
back.
I do, and and I'm going to plan better when I do that, because there was a lot of anxiety from my family where like we haven't done this yet, and the last day I just need to get on Space Mountain was like, my son was really worried about that, and and we ended up getting on there, but yeah, it was. You know, I would definitely plan when we're eating, at least to give us those marks of here's where we are. And in my head, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought we would travel between things quicker. There was a lot of times where we'd say, okay, we're going to go do this, and we'd stop, and we'd stop, and we'd stop.
Oh.
Just, you know, my daughter would see something in a shop and we'd have to stop and look at it, or at least stop to go, come on, we're trying to go do this other thing. So
Right.
but having those markers, you know, whether it's a fast pass time or just a dining time, and where that's going to be, I think that would have helped us out a lot. And having some sort of checklist to say, here's what we did get done, even though you feel like we haven't done anything yet.
Right.
So that was just kind of our takeaway, I guess.
Cool. And then Mykhailo, what about you? What kind of advice would you give to people heading to Disneyland for the first time?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Plan stuff out. And I think, I don't know, for me, the planning stuff was just stuff that like because we were noobs going into Disneyland, but it was weird because we're not Disney noobs. So like we know how to attack Disney parks. It's just this one was new to us. So we didn't like, okay, like now we have to go to Casey's Corner. We go this way. It's like we had that familiarity, but like had nothing, like we had no real knowledge.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of what it was we knew how things should go, but we weren't able to execute them because we were still new and we were experiencing everything all at once. So yeah, I think just kind of like I would say prepare for that. Prepare to be new at all this stuff, and kind of go in with like that mind of like knowing like, okay, like I'm not going to know what to do at every moment. Kind of the same way that you do at Disney World, where you're like, okay, like even if you sit down and you're like, okay, what do we do next? like usually you have like a good idea of like the different things you could do. At Disneyland, it was kind of like, okay, well, like if we go here, that's there, but if we go here, and it's just, and then there's Galaxy's Edge, which is like there, and so
Yeah.
I think just kind of like understanding what that you're getting yourself into something different but familiar. So
Yeah, I remember that feeling the first time I went to Disney World as an adult, thinking like, okay, I know this, but I don't really know this. Let's see how this goes. It's very intimidating and overwhelming mentally when you're already overstimulated by everything around you, and it can make for really tiring days. So what is something you guys think you would do differently on your next trip?
Plan a day off.
Go to In-N-Out on the day off, right?
Yeah.
oh my god, In-N-Out. Ugh. We didn't even get to go at In-N-Out. That was something we wanted to do, but
Yeah.
We
Happens.
did. Haha.
Oh,
I've only ever had cold In-N-Out at the end of a parade in California.
That's so sad.
Yeah, yep.
I hired a private car service to get us from the airport, so we were able to stop at In-N-Out on our way
nice. I'm so jealous.
when we first landed. So that was
Nice.
something I surprised the kids with. My daughter was squealing; she was so excited. She's our foodie, so
That's awesome.
Nice.
she takes me to these places, and she's like, "Yeah, we got to go to Raising Cane's." I think was one of the last
Oh,
ones,
yes.
and
Yes.
she's always like, "We gotta get the sauce," and the
Yes,
sauce is
the
terrible
sauce.
normally. Like, but the sauce at In-N-Out was actually a good one.
Yes. It is good. It is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brian, you would plan an off day on your next trip. Mykhailo, what about
Yes.
you? What would you do differently?
I mean, off day is definitely that's definitely a must. Like I think, especially going to California. I've only been to California now twice, and I kind of wanted to do California things. On our next trip, I feel like we want to stay on property for our next trip, because we stayed off property and we want to be able to kind of like have everything right in there. Like we there were a lot of times, and this happens at Disney World too, but there were a lot of times where we were like, the last thing we wanted to do was walk back to our hotel. We were like,
Yeah.
no, we are getting in Uber. We are getting Ubered back to our hotel. Like, we cannot do this. So it's just like kind of like having everything right there. Plus, like we're both Disney nerds, Kristen and I. So we're both really excited about like possibly staying at the Disneyland Hotel
That's
and
my
the
favorite
history
one.
that
It's
has.
So good.
Yeah, so that's something that we want to do. And since we went to Napa Rose, just like at one point we were just like hanging out at the Grand Californian,
Mhm.
and they have this giant fireplace that
Yes.
like they
Yeah.
have chairs in front of it,
Mhm.
and we just like chilled there for like a good 30 minutes. So yeah, just like having these really great resorts to stay at and have Disneyland like right there. I think that's what we want to do next time.
If I can make a recommendation, if it's in your budget, upgrade to the concierge lounge at the Disneyland Hotel, because the lounge is on the top floor of the tower that's facing downtown
Oh.
Disney. They pipe in the music for the fireworks, good
Mhm.
food. I mean, you could have breakfast, and you could make breakfast up there and then go back at night for enough appetizers to make a small meal, essentially.
Mhm.
It's good. And then the concierge lounge at the Grand is okay. It's not as good in my opinion, but you can still see the fireworks from that one too. So
Mm-hmm.
I used
Yeah.
to stand up there every night and watch the fireworks.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my job. Anyways, I think
Sounds
that's-
awful.
yeah, it was okay. Well, what they made me do was during the day, because I worked with the kids in the kids club. So during the day before the kids club opened, I had to go stand in the concierge lounge at the Grand and offer a craft to anybody who wanted to do a craft. And I was like, it's 1:00 in the afternoon. Everybody's at the parks. I'm standing here in my corner. Nobody wants to do a craft. And then at night, we took the kids up. We had a balcony right next to the concierge balcony. So we stood there and watched fireworks every night. That was a lot more fun than craft time.
Nice.
Anyways,
CJ, I would do a craft with you.
I know. All right. Is there anything else you two want to share about your journey to Disneyland?
Should we tell the Splash Mountain story?
Oh my
Tell the
goodness.
Splash Mountain
Yes.
story. Do it.
Let's hear
That
it.
has to be done. So, I rode Splash Mountain like earlier in the day with Kristen, and we were able to kind of walk on because again, it was actually pretty cold when we were there. So we just walked on, and it was just the two of us, and we were in the middle of the boat, and we really didn't get that wet. Fast forward, now it's the afternoon, and it's starting to get warm, and the two groups got together, Kristen and I and Brian's family, and we were like, oh, we should all go ride Splash Mountain together. This would be great. This would be a great idea. So we get in line, and we decided that we wanted the adults in one log, and then the kids can be off in their log because the adults wanted a picture of all of us together. So we get in our log, and these logs again are different than the ones in World because they're just like straight. And I think it was like the first little tiny drop, and I was in the
Slipping
front.
balls?
I was in the very front. The first drop, it's just like a wave of water,
Yeah.
like way different than in the morning. And I am, I'm already drenched.
Yeah.
Like and Brian, I'm yelling. I'm just like, I am soaked. Oh my God. And throughout the entire ride, I did not stop complaining about how wet I was. And Brian,
He was like he was a little kid. He's just screaming away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I could hear Brian laughing the entire ride. And then we get to the final drop, and again, just a wave of water and just soaked. There is standing water inside of the boat, and I'm just like, this is nuts. Like what happened between like the morning? I mean, it was
Okay,
yeah.
so I have
It was
Same thing,
amazing.
Okay, I have noticed the same thing. The Disneyland inside hills are like crazy with the water.
Mhm.
I don't understand it. And
Yes.
then I think what happens on that last one, the tunnel seems narrower when you splash down. So I'm pretty sure the water like ricochets
Yeah.
more close to your log. It's just I don't like Splash Mountain at Disneyland for that reason because you always walk away way more wet than you do at the Magic Kingdom version. Oh,
I mean,
man,
I
feel
had
for ya.
water in my shoe.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's the worst. No.
I straight up they went back to their hotel. I just bought a whole new wardrobe, which I wanted to do anyways because it was Disney. So I ended up getting some Spirit jersey pants, which are
Nice.
actually pretty cool. I got the stitched Spirit jersey and I got some Crocs, and I was
Wow.
nice and comfortable for the rest of the day.
Wow. So
But yeah,
everybody knew you were a Disney tourist with that outfit on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yep. I just needed a pair of ears, and then
Yes.
I would be set.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh. Oh, good old Splash Mountain. Oh boy.
I have yet to post those pictures. I got to get that picture out there.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
do.
we have a
Yeah.
picture of all of us together, and you can just tell that Mykhailo and my son was in the front of their boat. They were both just head to toe.
Completely
Drenched.
drenched. Yes.
Nice.
As I'm trying to shake the
Amazing.
water out of my shoe, and they're like, "I don't care about your shoe."
There's water in your shoe. There's water all over me. Yeah.
So, if our listeners want to see that Splash Mountain photo when you post it, where can they find you?
Yeah, we're out on Instagram at Miles from Main Street, and we also have a Facebook group, the Miles from Main Street community, and we have a website that is www.milesfrommainsT.com, and of course, you can find us wherever you get your podcast.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks
Fantastic.
for coming on. Alli, what's our next episode about?
Honestly, I don't know at this point because I don't know what order. We didn't finish doing my trip report from Florida.
Okay.
I don't know what order episodes are coming out anymore. So,
Yeah, we've like recorded so far in advance that we're like, What should we do next? Okay.
No, I
Let's
think the last one that we've recorded comes out on Monday, or that I've edited comes out on Monday, and I need to get on editing again. I've been on vacation.
Okay, so Elaine is coming out Monday, and then your part 1 trip
Yes.
report.
Or I could do this one next. I mean, if we don't want to
let's
break
do
up my
this
trip
one
report,
next.
I could do this
Yeah.
one next.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do this one next. Okay, so this episode is coming out next, and then next
Yeah.
time we will hear Alli's trip report, part 1.
Yeah, part
of 2.
1 of no, it's going to end up being of 3 because we have to cover my Disneyland trip
Oh
too.
my gosh, Alli did like 5 theme parks while she was out here,
Yeah,
right?
I did a
You
lot.
5.
And I did the 2 princess races. So I did the 2 Universal parks. We did Epcot.
Magic Kingdom.
We did Magic Kingdom and SeaWorld.
Yeah, so you did 5.
Yeah, so 5 theme
And then
parks in Florida.
Disneyland right after that. You're like on a roll
Yeah.
here.
You know what? I am really glad that I'm going to be home for like the next 6 weeks though, because that was too much traveling back to back.
That's a lot.
It
Okay.
sounds rough.
So
Yeah.
Alli has a good life over there. All right, so find us on Instagram at Park2Park Pod with the number 2, and wherever you listen to podcasts, Park2Park Podcast again with the number 2. And next time, Alli's trip report, part 1 of 3. We have determined,
Yes.
and that is all. See you guys next time.